The corner, the corner, the corner. Hey, welcome. Come on into Cousin Ed's Corner. This podcast is where you'll find real, authentic conversation, organic conversation, unscripted, unfiltered conversation, like you're home with your cousin. It's all about life. It's about finance. It's about spirituality. It's about love and everything in between. I'm your host, Cousin Ed. I'm excited to bring you along on this journey. So sit back and listen in as we dive into a wide range of topics. I have some diverse guests coming on with an array of thoughts and opinions. My goal is to create a space all for us to connect and communicate. It's not really about me. It's about the community as a whole. Let's enjoy it. Let's sit back. Let's think about our past. Let's move into our future. It's about the corner, the corner, the corner. So no matter how you cut it or slice it, we're all here together. I'm just here to give you a piece of my heart, my mind, my soul, and my mentals. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of Cousin Ed's Corner. The corner, the corner, the corner. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. We are back. We're back with another one. Cousin Ed's Corner back at you again. No matter how you cut or slice, we all here together. And today we are winning again. I have another queen on, and I'm just so happy to have her. I'm at a loss for words. I'm not sure what show she should be on. When my sister wins, we all win, or thank God for everything. Because just reading over some of her stuff and hearing some of her messages, very powerful, and she can resonate with all of us on any of the shows. Actually, Motivational Monday as well. So she's taking over the corner. I'll say that much. She's taking over the corner. Latina Nicole Smith, welcome to Cousin Ed's Corner.
Thank you very much, Cousin Ed. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we appreciate you. Everybody who listens to this show heard this before, but I say it again. The internet is a gift and a curse, and definitely we're gifted by having you today.
Thank you.
So I wanted to let everyone know a little bit about you and a little bit about yourself. I like to always ask this question. Don't tell us the pamper story, but tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you to the point you are today.
Okay. I grew up in Panama City, Florida, in the Panhandle. Excuse me. I grew up in Panama City, Florida, in the Panhandle. Moved away from there in 7th grade. And we moved to a small town in Florida called Lake City for about a year and a half to 2 years. And then we moved to Tallahassee, Florida. And that's where I went to high school. And so I graduated high school from Tallahassee, Florida. And I went into the Air Force 2 weeks after graduating high school.
Hold on, I got to pause right there. Sorry. So you didn't go to FAM? You forego FAM?
I did not.
All right, sorry.
Yeah, I did not go to FAM. 2 weeks after graduating high school, I went straight into the Air Force, and I was in for 6 years. And I PCS changed stations about 5 to 6 times while I was in, so I was able to travel and see the world, which was a dream come true for me. So that worked out. I was an air traffic controller in the Air Force. And then when I separated from the Air Force after 6 years, I started working for the FAA as an air traffic controller. And I worked there, I'll have to do the math. I'm not sure exactly how many years, over a decade there. And then I got a medical retirement from there. And so to get to the point of what got me to where I am at this very moment, I'm just going to pause for a second in case you have any questions before I continue or anything.
No. I'm enchanted. So go ahead. I'm just sitting there trying to take it all in.
Oh,
because you said 6 years, and you said 10 years. That's 16 years, and you look like you're 16. So I'm just trying to get it all in. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so what got me where I am today? Well, so when I was actually living in Memphis, Tennessee, and I was in a relationship for over a decade. It was a tumultuous relationship, an unhealthy relationship for about, like I said, over a decade. I have 3 children from that relationship. And I was in a relationship with someone who was not a believer in God. Mm-hmm. And when I met the person, they expressed that they had lost their faith. And at the time, I guess I didn't really understand how important that statement was, what it really meant when a person lost their faith or loses their faith. He grew up in the church. His aunt took him to church almost every Sunday. So I figured maybe he just had a rough patch, and maybe he was upset with God, but he would find his way back. So I didn't think too much of it. However, it turned out that he really had lost his faith. He didn't believe in God. So there was a lot of just issues. And I had an opportunity to have an up close and personal view of what it looks like being close to a person who didn't believe in God, because that was my first time actually meeting a person who didn't believe in God and who would just say it flat out, they don't believe in God, and say negative things about God. So it was very different for me. And having that up close and personal view, I was witnessing a person who I was able to see the other side of, an unbeliever, and I could see how lost this person was when they couldn't really see it. And I could see that this person couldn't really distinguish the truth from lies, and just a very dysfunctional and delusional way of living. And we went through a lot. And after this relationship, which was a pretty toxic relationship, after my up close and personal view of someone who was so disconnected from God and didn't believe in God, I just felt like after that relationship, I wanted to be close to God as possible. I wouldn't wish that on anyone what I saw this person going through as an unbeliever. And so it really just pushed me closer to God. A lot of the things that we went through, seeing that other side, it made me want to be close to God. So I left that relationship, moved to Florida with my children. And at this point, I didn't realize how much emotional damage was done until I left. So I had a lot of healing, a lot of mental and emotional healing to do. And that's when I was introduced to narcissist videos. And yes, I was watching a video about toxic people, and it ended up getting into narcissism and narcissism videos. And I was watching it and I was like, oh my goodness, this is what I was experiencing. Like I didn't know this was a thing that's out there that people go through, because like I said, it was a very different type of experience for me, the type of person I was dealing with. And I was at a place where I was ready for my life to be different. I had made some bad decisions, went through a lot, and I was just ready for a new life. I didn't want to go through any of the same things that I had been through before, the poor decision making, and at this point in life, I was just ready to be closer to God. I was ready to be healed. I wanted to be free from toxicity, etc. And so I made a decision to give my life completely to God. It was New Year's Day 2020. I made a decision to go completely all in with God. Not one foot in and one foot out, not lukewarm, but I was ready to completely surrender, because at this point I kind of got tired of trying to figure things out on my own, trying to get it right, trying to do the things that I wanted to do and that I should do, and failing and saying I won't do this again, and then finding myself doing that again. I just kind of gave up on doing it my way. And I was like, I don't want to spend the next 40, 50 years of my life going through the same things. I'm ready to get it right. And I was just ready for a different life. And after being up close and personal with a person who didn't believe in God, that just plummeted me into the arms of God. I'm like, I know this is what I want. I know it's real. It's a real thing. And so that's what I did. I gave my life completely to God. And
I'm gonna jump in here. So with you doing that, and I always speak on this, God is funny. He has humor in a funny way. He pushes us towards him through pain and through anguish, right? And sometimes he wants us to see what direction we're going to go in. Are we going to fold? And I heard this sermon many years ago when I was at I was actually leaving, like you said, leaving high school, and my pastor at the time, he's still my overall pastor, but pastor talked about your valleys and your mountaintops and everything else, and at your lowest point, are you still going to reach up for that mountaintop?
Mm-hmm.
And the mountaintop is easy to be at, right? But you're going to still climb that mountain when you're at the lowest point.
Mm-hmm.
So he pushes us there just to see which direction we're going in. And will you still praise him at the bottom, or you praise him at the top only?
Mm-hmm.
So in hearing that, he pushed you to that point, and it seems that you have prevailed, and he has prevailed and chosen him. So like I said, he's funny in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when I was at this place, I was looking around at the world. I was looking at the dysfunction that I had experienced in life. And I was looking at all the dysfunction in the world, all the chaos, all the confusion, the increasing rates of anxiety, depression. And I could see these things getting worse. And I could, it was obvious that the world, in my view, and maybe you can agree, it seems as the world goes on, we're going further and further away from God in society. And I feel like that has a lot to do with the increasing numbers of chaos, confusion, anxiety, depression, etc. So I gave my life to God, and the very first thing that I wanted to do was to read the entire Bible for myself. I was at a point where I wanted to know God. I wanted to really know him. I wanted to know everything he said, everything that he put in that book that he wanted us to know. I wanted to know, and I didn't want to hear it from someone else's mouth. I wanted to read it for myself. And so my first goal was to read the entire Bible. I started reading the Bible. And as I was reading the Bible, I started to receive so many answers, so much clarity, so much understanding to a lot of the questions that we ask as humans every day. A lot of things we try to figure out and try to understand. I was like, wow, God puts all the answers in this book. And so what I started doing was I thought about my children, and I was thinking, God forbid, if anything ever happened to me, I wouldn't want my children to be lost out here in this world and not know what to believe and which way to go, because now there's so many opinions. It's hard to know what to believe. And some unbelievers and people who talk negatively against God, they can be convincing. They can make you feel like a fool for believing. And the first thing that was put on my heart was to start writing down everything that I was learning in the Bible for my kids. And then it kind of grew into a book from there. So I was just writing everything I was learning. And like I said, initially it was for my kids, but I was like, okay, if I write them a letter that could be destroyed or lost, so how can I leave something for them that they can always turn to when they need it? If, God forbid, something happened to me, something that my kids could have to get the answers they need in the direction. And it grew into a book from there. And I realized, I said, well, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I saw that that's one reason why I reached out to you. I saw you wrote a book. What's the name of your book? And tell me more about, is it about, basically a love letter to your kids and thanking God?
No, so it started out as everything I wanted my kids to know. And as I was writing it, I said, man, this isn't just things that my kids need to know. This is information that everybody wants to know and needs to know. So it became just a complete book from there for my kids and for truth seekers all over the world, for people who want understanding, for people who want to be closer to God. And, Proverbs 4:7 tells us wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And with all that getting, get understanding. So God wants us to understand. And like I put in the book, when you understand something, especially like a command or something that God is leading us to do or calling us to do, when you understand it, you're more likely to comply when God says, don't lie, don't commit adultery, stay away from idolatry, this and that. If you really understand why he's telling you these things and the detriment that it can have on your life, when you really have your eyes open and you understand, you'll move differently, you'll live differently. And so that's what happened to me as I was reading the Word of God and getting this understanding and this wisdom. And I was like, man, I just want to share this because it's really changing me. It's really changing my life. And it can be hard. Oh, I'm going to tell you the name of it before I continue. So the name of the book is Biblical Keys to Life, The Questions We Have and the Answers We Need.
So biblical keys to life.
The questions we
have
and
and the answers we
Yes,
need.
sir.
Okay, I'll make sure I had that down.
Yes. And so I understand how difficult it can be when you decide to pursue a relationship with God or a faith journey. It can seem like a lot. You're looking at the Bible, you're like, man, this is a big book with a lot of words. And a lot of people feel that it's hard to understand. And it can, some people start, but it could be confusing and hard times can come and then they stop. And I feel like it would be so helpful to have a guide, something that I could read that just tells me everything I need to know without me feeling like I need to read the whole Bible and it's going to take me years or even a lifetime to figure all this stuff out. Just a simple, to the point guide that will tell me everything I need to know to get right with God, to get right with myself, to get my life right. And that's what Biblical Keys to Life is.
Excellent. So I know for myself, and it all relates back to what you're saying now, that I had to go to the good book, many years ago, and I found one of the transformative passages that changed my life, and I still live by today, which is Matthew 6:34. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has enough worries of its own. And in doing that, though, I was so troubled at that moment, and I had no place else to go but the book. And like you said, you could find anything and everything in that book. It's already written. Even though the times have changed, everything that you experience today is in that book.
Absolutely.
So from love, hate, Rome, everything you could think of.
Yes.
Taxes, everything you could think
I'm
of is in that
you.
book.
Absolutely.
So it definitely has the answers. If you have the question, it has the answers. And I'm glad you put a guide together. Now, I understand you are award-winning, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
When did the book come out, and how can people find the book?
The book came out November 2022, and it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, anywhere, just about anywhere books are sold. And my website is www.latinanicolesmith.com. Nicole has a H in it, Nichole. LatinaNicoleSmith.com. But it's
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to offer the book to anyone out there. I will sponsor one copy to the first person who sends in a voicemail for Miss Smith. If you send a voicemail in, go to cousinedscorner.com, across top of the page, hit leave voicemail. You leave a voicemail for her, I will definitely sponsor a copy for you for the book.
Awesome.
Also, I want to get into... No, you're welcome. I want to get into your mother, you said, entrepreneur. So speak on that.
Yes. So when I was in the working for the FAA, and actually all my life, I've always been a pretty good saver. And I'm going to tell you, I believe I know what helped me get on that pathway as a good saver and saving money. So when I was going off for the military, I wanted my mom to co-sign for a new car for me. A Mitsubishi Mirage, because my sister had one, and they were cheap back then for a brand new one. So my mom was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And, I was upset at the time, like, why wouldn't she co-sign for me to get a car? And so when I went into the military, I ended up meeting someone who had a really nice Dodge Avenger. It was fairly new, but it had a lot of miles on it, and they sold it to me for $2,500. And when I joined the Air Force as an air traffic controller, since they needed controllers so bad, I got a bonus, $7,000 bonus for signing for 6 years. So I had that cash on me. So I bought the car for $2,500, and it was fully loaded, had leather seats, sunroof, and all of that. So at that point, I had, the military pretty much takes care of all your expenses, my lodge, where I was living, food, and all of that. So the only bills that I really had at the time were my cell phone bill, cable bill, and things like that. So I was able to save. So I realized how much money I needed per month to enjoy myself. So when I got paid, I said, okay, to go to the mall, maybe, get paid 1st and 15th. So for 2 weeks to go to the mall, go to the movies, hang out with my friends, I spend about X amount of money, and I can do those things. And what's left? So the amount that was left over, that's what I would put in savings automatically every month. So hypothetically, if I need, I'm just gonna say $500 for 2 weeks to enjoy myself and do the little things I want to do, and I have 500 left or whatever the amount is, that I automatically started putting that away, and that built up over time. But so I started saving, and then when I got into the FAA and started working for them, I made 6 figures working there. And I've always,
I'm about to say,
yeah,
the way they looking for agents, or you call it agents?
controllers.
The way you're looking for controllers now, yes, I know, 6 figures plus. So yeah.
And so I made, I've always made more money. Even in the Air Force, I've always made more money than I spent. And so when I was in the Air Force, same thing. I had a lot of money saved, and I started buying real estate. So when I moved to, let's see, my first home was actually when I got out of the military. I had signed up to do a job over in Afghanistan, a contract job when I got out. So I had that, employment established at the time for that. So I came across a house in Texas. Houses were really cheap back then, not anymore. Housing prices have gone up, but at the time, came across this brand new nice house, which I thought would have been about 160 or 180 at the time. And my mom was like, call the number on the house, so that's where she lives. My mom lives in Texas, and I was there for a little while when I got out of the military. So I called the number on the house, and they were like $125,000. I was like, wow, it was a 2-story, 3-bedroom, brand new house, fence, everything. So I was like, wow, that's great. So I went ahead and bought that house. I lived in it for a few months. And then when I started working for the FAA, I moved to Memphis, Tennessee. That's where I was working. And I rented that house out when I moved from there. When I got to Memphis, I bought another house because I had the income and everything in the savings. Bought another brand new 3-bedroom small starter home. Was living there. I lived there for a couple of years. And then that's when the real estate market crashed and everything. And there was a lot of foreclosures and cheap houses. So I ended up buying another house. And the second one I bought was also about 125, a new home. And then I ended up buying a foreclosure that was the neighborhood over from me. And I would have been spending the same amount of money to live in that house, but it was bigger, much bigger. So I moved to that house, and then I rented out the house that I had moved out from there. And it became a domino effect. Yes.
Rinse and repeat.
Yes. And so I ended up there with that pattern. I had bought a couple of condos because they were cheap there in Memphis. And I ended up joining a real estate group after a while, they were a group of investors who teach, they started a group where they teach others how to invest in everything that they knew. And so I learned about buying commercial apartment homes, which I had never crossed my mind because it seemed so complicated. It seemed like so much owning an apartment complex, right? But when they explained it, I was like, wow, is it really that simple? It was so simple when they explained the process. And so I ended up coming across one that I could afford in Texas, and I bought a small apartment complex. And so that's my entrepreneurial side. So I'm a investor, landlord as well.
Excellent. I got to bring you back. I don't know if you know, I do a Financial Freedom Friday. I got to bring you back to talk about that experience.
Okay.
And before I let you go, I know it's first time here, Cousin Ed's Corner. You're welcome back anytime. But the kids, I do math, so 16 years. So you got some kids that's getting out of high school age. How's that being a mom, entrepreneur? How's all that right now? How you author? How's all that experience?
Yeah, so my kids now are 9, 11, and 13.
Okay.
Yep. And right now,
are you in the mix of it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it actually hasn't been too bad because I don't have a 9 to 5. I'm home. I get to stay at home, so that helps a lot. So when they're at school during the day, that's normally when I get things done. But I do have a lot on my plate. As a mom, I have a lot of things that need to be done all the time. So I'm not able to do as much as I want to do, as far as creating more content and doing more things like that. But it hasn't been too bad. I think what has helped a lot is not having a 9 to 5 hasn't made it too overwhelming for me.
I'm going to tell you one thing somebody told me, intentional. So always remember that word, being intentional. So anything you want to do to try to continue to be intentional, even with everything you have going on. So I force myself to try to be intentional. We not always, can't always do it, but I try to force myself to try to be intentional and doing other things. So make sure you take care of yourself. That's the first thing. Make sure you take care of yourself because, like I say on the plane, FHA, put your mask on first before everybody else.
Absolutely.
So make sure you take care of yourself.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, I want to say one more thing. As far as getting the book done, I would say that all of that completely was God. I couldn't have done it without God, so he orchestrated all of that. But at the time when I was writing the book, I just focused on that, gave all of my attention to that. And again, I was able to write a lot while my kids were at school. And I did have moments sometimes where, my kids knew I was writing a book and I would say, hey kids, can I have this amount of time just for a short minute while mommy works on this? And, I'll be done with the book soon. And then, there won't be any of these type of moments. But most of the time I worked on it when they were at school. But they did give me every now and then, if I was working on something and didn't want to stop because I was flowing or something, my kids were pretty understanding and they were kind of, supportive that I was writing a book, and they would go, okay, don't bother mom for 30 minutes or yeah.
Well, it's been great talking with you. Like I said, you are welcome back to Cousin Ed's Corner anytime. I would say, I'm going to say it anyway, but I'm going to say Jesus had wine, so the wine is on the counter, right? But normally the brown is down low and the clear is up top and the red cup is on the counter, but I have some wine too. So you're welcome back anytime to come to Cousin Ed's Corner. Please go ahead and give them your information again.
Okay. My name is Latina Nicole Smith. And again, the Nicole has an H in it, Nichole, Latina Nicole Smith. And my book is Biblical Keys to Life, The Questions We Have and the Answers We Need. And it's available on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, anywhere books are sold. And also my website, www.latinanicolesmith.com.
You heard it. You heard it yourself. Definitely go out and support this sister. I'm honored to have you. And like I said, you're welcome back anytime. Family, I love you. I love you. I love you. Nothing y'all can do about it. Make sure you take care of yourself. Be intentional about it. Peace. We're out of here.
Thank you.
Hey, y'all. Aisha here, founder and CEO of the Sisters in Business Expo, the country's only multi-city small business expo and community created to celebrate and educate entrepreneurial women of color. Be sure to tune in to the next episode of Cousin Ed's Corner. And remember, when my sister wins, we all win.
This episode of Cousin Ed's Corner was brought to you by the Sistah Shop. Please be sure to visit them at thesistahshop.com. That's thesistahshop.com. thesistahshop.com. Thank you for listening to Cousin Ed's Corner.